The All Progressives Congress has released the timetable for its primaries ahead of the 2019 general election.
Yeah, in a statement signed by the National Organizing Secretary of the party, Emmanuel Ibediro, the APC fixed the presidential primary for September the 20th, while governorship primary will be conducted on 25th of September. And the party says the sale of nomination and expression of interest forms for all elective offices has commenced and run till September the 10th. The price for the presidential nomination form is 40 million naira. An expression of interest form is 5 million naira, bringing it to 45 million naira. Aspirants for state governorship will have to pay 22.5 million naira for nomination forms and 2.5 million naira for expression of interests.
And as for the Senate, the nomination form cost about 7 million naira, while the expression of interests will cost 1 million naira. Nomination for the House of Representatives costs 3.5 million naira, and the expression of interest form would cost 350,000 naira. Let's now bring in a member of the APC and Federal House of Representatives aspirant, Adeboye Kalajaye. Thank you very much indeed for coming.
Yeah, good
It's
morning.
nice to have you join us.
Good morning.
Well, you know, since the nomination forms, the cost of the nominations forms emerged, quite a number of people have been concerned. Of course, the guest who just walked out here, you, you heard him, you know, raising concerns as well. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, the right to fix fees, nomination fees, resides primarily with the party. And the rationale behind the amount so fixed is best known to the party. One, some may argue that it's a means of, eluding some people out of the contest, that the money may prevent more people from taking part. Some may argue to say that nothing good comes easy. Everything that you do in life has to do with an input. Without an input, there cannot be an output. Some may argue to say that if you say the fee is high, what happens to the cost of running party structures? Because it becomes a major source of revenue to the party. Almost a 4-year turnaround, the ladder. How do we run the party structure? Is INEC funding the parties? How do you run the secretariats? How do you pay salaries of workers? How do you also conduct the primaries in terms of papers, ballot papers, and all of those things? So for me, I don't want to quarrel whether the fee is high or is low. What is important is that we must all put our acts together, and as party faithfuls and loyalists, we must abide by our party decisions. Do we even have a choice? It's either you are running or you are not running. And life is about choice. The choice not to make a decision is also a choice on its own. So it's incumbent on everybody who wants to run these elections to source for resources. And we've been told some people have gone to purchase form for the president. It also shows that if you really are determined to run and you're a man of the people, you can also raise your resources from amongst those of your supporters. So for me, some may say it's high, some may say it's it's selective in terms of people who can run. But to me, I am a party faithful, I'm a party loyalist. I have done that all my life. So I give it to the party.
Well, you said earlier that the decision as to how much should be charged for rests with the party. But the party is not an abstract. It's a collection of people within. People came together to say, okay, this is our party. This is based on our ideologies or whatever we agree. And we remember that in the First and Second Republic, even the woman who sells akara by the roadside, who feels I'm a member of the NPN, I'm a member of the UPP, or a member of the UPN, he has her card somewhere. She pays dues, and that is where the party generates resources from. If we have to now used nomination forms as a means of generating monies for running the political party. Is that a good enough or creative way to go?
Yeah, it's also about membership drive. It's about, you know, those days you talk about were days when very few people are party members. You can count in the number of wards, the membership may not even be more than 20, 30 people. Politics were left for the politicians, as at then. Today, everybody is a politician. So you have the mass movement of people. People now believe that there is only one business that you can do in Nigeria. It's the business of politics. And so everybody wants to be a card-carrying member, particularly of a ruling party. The membership of APC across the nation is quite huge. So now, members are not really obliged to want to pay membership dues. The day you introduce membership dues, you are likely to lose more members to the other opposition party. So I'm not saying it's not a it's not a veritable means of generating resources. Party must also look at that direction to say, look, we must also pay a monthly dues or an annual due to become a member of a party. That's the ideal thing. But then what is ideal is not real. What is real is not ideal. There is a difference between idealism and realism. So we are challenged by idealism and realism. So would the party going to be realistic or idealistic? To say this is what is ideal is that members must pay membership fees. And I think we should be looking at that direction. But realistically, people don't come to parties because they also want to go and be putting in money. They believe that they want to share from the booties of democracy, from the dividends of democracy. So for us, it's a societal problem. The expectations of Nigerians from politicians are very high. And as long as both the electorate and the politicians are not in tandem with the principles of democracy, which is about participatory democracy without inducement. The voters want to be induced. The party members want to be induced. So
in fact, they look forward to it.
There's no free lunch anywhere. So if that is the circumstance, then party must also generate or be dynamic in terms of revenue generation to run the party.
Okay. All right, well, that's your opinion, but quite a number of people are saying this is also a way to stifle younger leadership, you know. But away from that now, the party has brought about direct and indirect, primaries and all of that, and quite a number of people are concerned that, look, this may go to create further disintegration within the party, because as of last week, there were state governors, there were reports that some state governors are on a collision course with the leadership of the party because of that. Don't you think that is likely to happen?
You see, if the rich becomes poor and the poor becomes rich, poverty has come to stay. Whether you adopt a consensus method, a direct primary, or an indirect primary, something has come to stay. What has come to stay is that some people will take decision. The consensus may reduce the number of those who take decisions to a smaller number. The indirect will lead you to a smaller, a much more larger. Are you following what I'm saying? And then the indirect primaries could be all inclusive. So whether you talk of any of those methods, what is important is that the party must devise means of ensuring that we have credible candidates that we match. Not only imagine alone, it must be candidates that are acceptable to the generality of the populace. So for me, an indirect primaries proposes something. It proposes that you don't have to limit those who would take decisions to a few number of people. It means that you're allowing every card-carrying member to partake. But then it has its own challenges. Such challenges as security, as what happens about some people who cannot win genuinely, who decide to go and rent thugs and bombard the venues of elections and then disrupt elections and all of those ones. What happens to people who are not even card-carrying members, who will come to the place to say they want to vote, What happened to those who snatch the register, the voters register, and go away with it? So it's also open to some challenges. But no matter how much challenging it is still very, very right principles of democracy, of participatory democracy. You talk of the indirect primaries. Some delegates must have emerged through a process. So if some delegates have emerged through a process, they don't just emerge, they must also have emerged through a general congress. It means that they have also undergone acceptability of the people. So it's also like a direct primary. Then the consensus candidate is about where you can have peace among yourself, where leaders can sit down in their respective domains and say, look, 10 people want to run for this position. Can we sit back and say, look, are we going to apply the zoning principles? Are we going to apply the principle of, the popularity of the most acceptable candidate? Are we going to look at, some other indices and say, okay, why don't you wait now? We can give you something else. So consensus becomes also very important. Even in the direct primary, it's not exclusive in terms of consensus candidates. If, for instance, in my local government now, where a few people running, and the leadership can sit back and then resolve, and then we present a common candidate, what we'll just do on the day of direct primaries is to go for affirmation. So it is those things that will be exploited, and I think the APC will adopt those methods. So for me, I do not see any method that is, full-blown proof.
Okay.
Every method has its own merits and demerits. Consensus means that a few people, leaders, can just sit, 10 people can just say, this is the person we want, and then they say, everybody go and sit down. Is that democracy? You cannot say is that democracy in itself. The delegate system is to say that, okay, some people will, be demanding higher to say, before I can vote for you, I know your destiny is in my hand. The other option is saying that, look, let everybody come and vote. But when many people come and vote, what happens to them? Are they coming empty-handed? Are they going to just go? But then, it could also make a popular candidate to emerge. So for me, nothing is cast in iron, as far as I'm concerned.
All right. Now, your party has come up with a timetable for, the primaries and all the convention and all of that. How is it going to impact or change the political atmosphere now that the dates are fixed?
No, it's just to say that all of the activities that has, been orchestrated over time, in the last 1 year, in the last 6 months, in the last 3 months, is now coming to a crescendo. It's coming to the climax of it. You can now draw a roadmap. Now you know that the date is fixed. It means that you can draw your timetable of campaigns. It means that you can do your ward visitation, you can do your leadership visitation, you can now even draw a budget for your campaigns. So it makes it more definitive. It makes it more, decisive to say, yes, here we have come. All of the past in the last few months, in the last 1 year, has been, okay, when is it going to take place? But also don't forget that these timetables are released based on the fact that the INEC also, as a supervisory agency, also has its own an overall timetable which everybody must comply with. So within the period of time that the time has been fixed, party will choose their candidate, they will send to INEC. INEC will also do their own minor screening. They will come up with objections and substitutions and all of that. So it's a procedure. So as far as I'm concerned, I just think that it just shows that the game is up, and then everybody must up its game.
Well, as you rightly mentioned, the party's first term is coming to a close now. Of course, next year it comes to a close. We'd like you, that's why the primaries the primary elections will be taking place very shortly. We'd like you to assess the performance of your party, the All Progressives Congress, in the last 3 years or so, in area of economy, in area of security. We'd like you to assess that.
Well, I first take from the perspective of the economy. Some people have argued to say that it's been quite very hard. Money is not flowing. That's been some argument in some quarters. But then, have you listened to Professor Shibaju, the Vice President? Have you listened to his analysis? What quantum of resources have this government been opportune to have in the last 3 years? What quantum of resources were available to the previous administration? even when you compare the period in question, you come to realize that what has accrued to the national economy in terms of resources, in terms of, even oil, oil money, is not about up to more than 30% of what was accruable to that government in the last, 3 years of their own regime. It also shows that the economy is not smiling in terms of resources. It means that government has to rediversify the economy. And what has this government done in the last 3 years? It has rediversified our economy. We are moving back to an agrarian economy, which of course used to be our mainstay. Look, this oil that we all depend on will end one day. And so what this government has done through its agricultural program is to do a backward integration of the entire economy in terms of going back to agriculture. That becomes very, very important. To also say that what has the economy done to us? For instance, the days of flamboyancy is over. The day of display of wealth with impunity is over. In the past, people were displaying wealth with impunity. People were slamming it on people's face. Now, even if you steal money, you must watch it, because people are watching you. The agencies of government will get at you. So it means that we can also have some level of sanity in terms of governance, in terms of our behaviors. So that becomes also a plus for the economic rejuvenation of what the last administration has
but there are still accusations or allegations from some quarters that the way the anti-graft agencies are going about it, the fight is tending to look like a selective fight where anyone who moves into the ruling party is insulated or is inoculated from prosecution or is shielded.
I read this morning.
Yes.
That the EFCC boss, Magu, specifically was saying that the fact that you differ from one place to the other is not an immunity, and I hope it is so. For me, yes, there is no time that corruption has been fought that people have not accused that is selective, because what faces you backs me. So for me, it could be so argued that it looks selective, but to me it is not selective. If you have nothing to hide, you don't have to be afraid. They went to the house of Edwin Clark just a few days ago, and you had him. They were looking for arms and ammunition. They got there, they didn't get anything. They had nothing to prosecute him over. So even when people feel that it's selective, if your hands are clean, you must be able to prove yourself. Then let me also ask you, since the corruption crusade started, the law has been allowed to play its course. Nobody has been unnecessarily harassed, jailed, or whatever, without going through the court processes. So the people are still in court. People are fighting their freedom. If you said it was selective, the president of the Senate had gone through the various stages.
Yeah, but we have Dasuki still in detention against court orders.
They were citing security issues. And when, the law is there. But then when it amounts to security or a national security, it becomes a different ball game. I am an advocate of the rule of law. I believe that the law should be allowed to play out. No matter how much of security risk anybody is, when the court acutes or when the court says this, we should obey the court. But then I'm not in the curfew of government to know what they see, what we don't see. What we see is the superfluous, the facial outlook of what goes on. But then what happens within government circle, in the inner caucus, in the inner cocoon, is not what we are privy to know. So what constitutes national security to them, to an ordinary man on the street, it may not be so, but I believe absolutely that the rule of law must prevail. So by and large, my assessment of this government is to say that we've run government for 3 years plus now, and then we'll have people who have run the government for 16 years. You begin to do your arithmetics and calculations and see the Israelites, when they were in the wilderness, they say, oh, had we gone back to Egypt, would they have died in Egypt? It would have been better. Because the journey to success, the journey to stardom, the journey to victory cannot be a tea party. So for me, when people are going through such travails, economic, reintegration, rediversification, all of these things, people must complain, because you can't lose pain if you don't feel pain. Pain must come. So when you lose the pain, then relief will come. So for me, it's not yet a huru. we cannot score the government say he has done 100%, but I will still give this government a pass mark to say that it's a journey. And then we're on. Another 4 years for an APC government will spell more prosperity.
All right. Well, Nigerians have the ultimate decision to make on that as to whether they like to keep the status quo or change the status quo just as they did in 2015. Adeboye Kadejaye, thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thank you very much. I appeal to Nigeria. They should not be in a hurry to change, to go back to Egypt.
Well, but they have the powers.
There will be no Stockholm.
But they have the powers to say...
There will be no Stockholm in Egypt. There will be more slavery
but they have
if anybody goes back to Egypt.
Yeah, but they have the powers to say, no, we don't like this, so let's change
nobody
it.
likes slavery.
Like they say, change is good. So.
But not evil changes. Don't change.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.